Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Monday, the 24th day of June, 2024. And as always, we have some very important stories to bring to you. For example, we have two stories from Russia. We find Benjamin Netanyahu did his first interview with Israeli TV since the war that started on October 7th of last year. And we have two more stories of U.S. failure to help aid Israel in their desperate time of need. Each of these stories continues to confirm what the Bible has to say our world will be like in the last days. It literally is amazing, and let's never take it for granted. All right, headline number one. This is a very horrific story. You might have heard it. Over 15 Russian cops and civilians are killed in attacks on synagogues and churches in the Dagestan region of Russia. Orthodox priests among those slain in seemingly coordinated attacks on these two cities, with synagogues in both cities set ablaze. Jewish community reports no injuries. Gunmen on Sunday attacked synagogues, churches, and a police checkpoint in Russia's Dagestan area, killing over 15 police officers and several civilians in the North Caucasus region. It's the National Guard, according to the governor. This seemingly they were coordinated. The coordinated attacks were carried out at two synagogues and two churches in a largely Muslim region of Russia, which neighbors Chechnya. Durban is home to ancient Jewish communities and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, it's terrible what happened, but what we don't want to miss here, it's the Christians and Jews who are being persecuted. Note that. The Bible talks about in the last days there'll be a rise of anti-Semitism. Sign 21 of our 25 signs when near the end. The entire world will be against Israel. And sign 22, Christians will continue to be persecuted. Now, please don't miss the fact that we always have to mention that Scripture predicted that both Christians and Jews will still exist at the time of the end. And this is a miraculous prediction. What are the odds that here 2,000 years ago, when Jesus talking about the time of the end, mentioned both Christians and Jews? You've got one ethnic group, the Jews, you've got one religious group, the Christians. They're both going to exist. They will both be persecuted. And that's precisely what we see today in our world. The two most persecuted groups of people are Christians and Jews. And so seeing this in Russia is heartbreaking, but again, not surprising. Now, staying with Russia, this is World War III Watch is the headline. Russia blames the U.S. for deadly Ukraine missile strike on the Crimean beach. This is an AP story from Kiev. Russian authorities said 6 people died and over 100 were wounded in Ukrainian drone and missile attacks on Sunday, while the second day of Russia's aerial bombing on Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine killed at least one person. Among the dead were 5 people, including 2 children, who were hit by falling debris from Ukrainian missiles that were shot down over a coastal area in Sevastopol, a port city in Russia's annexed Crimea. The Moscow's installed governor is the one who reported this story. Another person died in another city in the Belgorod region of Russia, which borders Ukraine. Now, Russian state news agency RIA Novosti, citing the health ministry, said 124 people were wounded in Sevastopol. Falling rocket fragments caused a forest fire of over 150 square meters or 1,600 square feet and set a residential building alight. Russia's defense ministry said that both Ukraine and the U.S. bore responsibility for the deliberate missile strike on civilians. It said the U.S. supplied ATACMS missiles were used in the Ukrainian attack. Now, let's not miss this. Russia's again in the headlines. It continues to be an aggressor there in Ukraine, but it's also a nation that has no problem today, and please don't miss this, no problem today, of publicly threatening the U.S. They do it all the time. And we should remind all of you that during the last administration, we never saw this from Russia. There was no public, basically outcry against the U.S. and threatening them. A lot of that today, a lot of that in the last 4 years, but it certainly didn't happen before because America isn't what it used to be. And it's certainly this administration doesn't have the respect that the last administration did. All right, our third headline, Benjamin Netanyahu did an interview, first one with an Israeli television station since the war started. He said basically the intense Rafah fighting is almost over and Hezbollah battle is next. These are the two takeaways from the interview. Netanyahu, while interviewing with Channel 14, said Israel is open to diplomacy, but stressed that any resolution would be on Israel's terms. He said the intense part of the military operation in Rafah is almost over. He said this Sunday night, explaining the next goal is to bring an end to Hezbollah's attacks along the country's northern border. The intense phase of the war is about to end in Rafah, after which the IDF will continue mowing the grass all the time. We will not give up. We hit them hard, he said in this wide-ranging interview. And again, it marked the first time since the start of the Gaza war on October 7th of last year that he had granted an interview to an Israeli television station. Hezbollah from the territory on Israel's border has not stopped its attacks, as we've talked about here almost every day. Israel, he said, is open to a diplomatic solution to the Hezbollah threat, but as he stressed, it must be on Israel's terms, and this is very important, on Israel's terms. We are obliged to return the residents of the north to their homes, Netanyahu said. He didn't provide specifics with, the possibility of a third Lebanon war. We will do what's necessary. He said, I can assure the citizens of Israel that if we are required to take on this challenge, we will do it. We can fight on several fronts, and we are always preparing for it. Now, sadly here, what we see, the war is inevitable in the north. It's got to happen because of these consistent attacks on Hezbollah. It could not be otherwise. However, our next story is rather pathetic. The U.S. will be unable to assist Israel. Someone says, wait a minute, didn't they just say the other day they're going to help them? Well, that was the other day. Listen to what happened. Headline number 4. The Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman said this. The U.S. is likely unable to assist Israel in a war with Hezbollah. They're likely going to be unable to do it. General Brown asked Israel to think of how a war would affect the region, as well as the impact it would have on U.S. forces. Again, trying to tell Israel not to get into this war with Hezbollah. And how ridiculous is this when they've been attacked? They can't defend themselves, can they? Well, evidently not according to the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff head Charles Q. Brown warned that the U.S. may not be able to help defend Israel in an all-out war with Hezbollah in the same way it stepped in during the Iran drone attack in April, the AP reported on Monday. Brown is a U.S. Air Force general. He said Iran would be more inclined to support Hezbollah. No kidding, they're a proxy of Hezbollah. While the Islamic Republic supports Hamas, General Brown said Tehran would stand more firmly behind Hezbollah. Well, that's true. We know that, particularly if they felt they were being significantly threatened. If they were being significantly threatened, that's real great, isn't it? Here's this terrorist group that's basically taken over Lebanon. Iran runs Lebanon. Let's face it, for all intents and purposes. And they've been bombing Israel terribly since the day after October 7th until now. And like we tell you every day, it's getting worse and worse. The bombs and the missiles are going deeper into Israeli territory. There, this guy says he's warning about, what this might cause. Now, he says he asserted that the safety of the U.S. forces was the priority, and he reiterated that no attacks have been carried out on U.S. bases in the region since February. In the event of the war, the U.S. would likely not be able to provide the same assistance, he said, because it's hard to fend off shorter range rockets. Well, you can provide a lot of assistance. You can put a carrier out on the coast and let Hezbollah know that anytime you attack Israel, you're going to see shelling done in your own country, of course. That's the past. They're not doing that right now. Now here we go. Brown said the U.S. continued to warn Israel against going to war with Lebanon. What do you think's going on right now, General Brown? His comments come amidst heightened expectations that the IDF might launch a military campaign in Lebanon to oust Hezbollah from the territory on Israel's border and to stop its persistent attacks. And as the article finishes, Netanyahu talked about last night, they will do what needs to get done in Lebanon, and that's coming next. So what's interesting is the comments, when you read it from the readers, this from the Jerusalem Post, it indicates the thoughts of the readers. And let me just read to you a couple of the comments. It's always the same. Israel, don't do this, don't do that, don't defend yourself. Think about what you're doing. And the writer says, what about Hezbollah and Iran, who is attacking them? What should Israel do? Perhaps if the U.S., UN, and whatever is left of the civilized world supported Israel vocally and clearly, without these confused and muddled words, there would be no need for war. Interesting take. Then another writer said this, Lebanon commits an act of war against Israel, and General Brown tells Israel not to defend itself. From his statements, I draw the conclusion that the Biden administration is blaming Israel for the Lebanese attack on Israel on 10/7. Brown has done nothing to facilitate the rescue of the U.S. citizens being imprisoned by Hamas. Currently, the U.S. administration is concerned more about Iran and Lebanon, and that's what it seems, doesn't it? Okay, but here's the bottom line. The U.S. can feel that it can tell this ally what to do, such as not to go to war. Maybe they expect the 80,000 Israelis who have had to move away from the northern border since October 8th, basically, and live in hotels across the country to keep doing this for years and years to come and just not do anything. This is not logical. It's not rational. Yeah, these are the orders seemingly that the U.S. feels they can give to Israel. They are not a friend of Israel. Now, again, this is further indication of our 25 signs. We're near the end. We talked about the 2 signs that Israel still exists at the time of the end, and so does Christians, and they're getting attacked. And now also we have sign number 11, that the U.S. will not be a player in last days Bible prophecy, according to Ezekiel 38:39. They're conspicuous by their absence. And why? Well, because of statements like this. Now, there's another interesting article here that's similar from Gatestone. And again, these come left and right. It says, as U.S. is being encircled by enemies, the U.S. administration wants Israel to surrender to terrorists. Listen to this. While Russian warships, including a nuclear submarine, this week docked in Cuba, and with China building a major deep water port in Peru that could serve the Chinese military, the U.S. administration is pressuring only Israel to allow the Iran-backed terrorist group Hamas to win the war it launched against Israel on October 7th. Instead of supporting Israel's right to defend itself against coordinated and sustained attacks, the Biden administration's public wavering suggests a pro-terrorist shift in U.S. policy away from Israel. This shift represents a betrayal that leaves Israel in a no-win position of either rejecting U.S. proposals or allowing Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis and other Iranian-backed terrorist groups to keep trying to advance their goal of ultimately destroying Israel. Now, while Iran itself, and not a terrorist proxy, launched an unprecedented missile and drone attack against Israel from Iranian soil on April 13th, this assault was an act of war. And what U.S. tell Israel to do? Don't respond. Be careful. Don't respond. We don't want a wider war. The result has been that Iran's proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, is now engaged in unremittingly raining down rockets, attack drones, and guided missiles throughout Israel's north. The Biden administrations might not even have asked the Iranian regime to order its other terrorist proxy, Hezbollah, to stop. Okay, in other words, they haven't even told Iran to make sure Hezbollah stops this. No, they've never said anything to Iran like that, never ordered them, never warned them. Now, as the story continues, asking Israel to do nothing against Hamas and Hezbollah after 8 months of escalating aggression is akin to asking the United States, after the 9/11 attacks, to leave al-Qaeda untouched and allow it to remain in power. Meanwhile, there has evidently been no pressure put on Qatar or Iran to lift a finger to stop the Gaza war. And Hamas's official Ghazi Hamad disclosed last week, when Egypt and Qatar have exerted no pressure on Hamas whatsoever to accept Biden's proposed ceasefire, and the media reports about threats to expel Hamas leaders from Qatar are false. They're not doing anything to expel Hamas. They're not doing anything to help Israel. And so the article finishes off by saying this. On the one hand, the Biden administration keeps warning Israel about defending itself, while on the other, it keeps waiving sanctions, thereby providing the Iranian regime with billions of dollars that fund, arm, and sponsor terrorist organizations, including Hamas, Hezbollah, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the Houthis, all of which are committed to eradicating Israel. Worse than this, the U.S. largesse in enabling the Iranian regime to race towards the completion of its nuclear program. And that, again, is the worst of all. The Ring of Fire strategy, apparently expanded to the hostile axis of Russia, China, and Iran, is now coiling around the U.S., as well as installing potential fighters and saboteurs inside the gates. And that's true with the Ring of Fire. We're being surrounded by Russia, China, and of course, Iran. The financial resources that Iran gains from the waived sanctions, thanks to Biden, and channels into further its agenda with Qatar, Hamas, and Hezbollah, simply increase their ability to conduct aggressive actions against Israel and the U.S., destabilizing the region. With its new Russian and communist Chinese axis, they seriously jeopardize the free world. That's precisely what happens. And so what's the bottom line? Well, here's our assessment. The U.S. continues to be a laughingstock. As we say, our enemies don't fear us, our friends don't trust us, and the rest of the world thinks we're irrelevant. And again, sign number 11 of our 25 signs, we're near the end. No superpower will intervene on Israel's behalf when they are invaded. And in the future there, Ezekiel 38:39 something will happen to the United States. And something is happening. We're destroying ourselves from within. This administration has just, tore down everything that was sacred and holy about the U.S., its ability to have an impact across the world. And it gets worse day by day. But this is what was expected from Scripture, because we are not a player in last days Bible prophecy. Now, to find out what the Bible does say, please see our books on our website, Educating Our World. We have 65 books on a number of 11 different topics. 12 books on the subject of Bible prophecy, and the one we mentioned today, 25 signs. We're near the end. We document these signs that are taking place right now, right in front of our very eyes, that were predicted long ago about what will happen at the time of the end. 70 specific details have already been fulfilled. 30 others are in the process of being fulfilled, showing that God is in control of all things. He's told us these things ahead of time. As Jesus said in John 16, he's told us these things, so when they come to pass, we are not afraid. We won't lose faith. And we hope you're not losing faith. You're not being disillusioned or discouraged, because the Bible has warned us about these things ahead of time. So as we begin a new week here in the United States of America, let's just pray for Israel, pray for all that's going on. But for our own part, let's continue to be salt and light, to preach the gospel, teach the word of God to people, and let them know that Jesus Christ is indeed Lord. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless